Nick with Push Industries here, and we are back to discuss electric chute rotation for the John Deere 44-inch snowblower. This is found on the 100 series and the S240, which we have here. This comes factory equipped with a hand crank to articulate the chute left and right, as well as a cable pull system to move the deflector. Today we're going to show you our Push Industries kit to power that chute left and right and that deflector up and down. So if you own one of these tractors, this will be a familiar sight. You would have your crank and your deflector mechanism right by the steering wheel. When we're done today, that's all going to get replaced, and you'll have a nice, handy, convenient switch box that can operate both functions left to right and the deflector up and down. To get started, we're going to remove the crank handle and the deflector cable, and we're going to disassemble the snowblower to the state that we see here. We're going to remove that turn auger and all the associated stuff with it. And see if we can get under there. So it's all going to just be disassembled like this. Wipe it all down, and we can begin the installation. So with this kit here, there's going to be one hole that needs to be added, and that is this hole here. This is your factory hole. Obviously this snowblower has already had this kit installed, so we can't undo that, but we will walk you through on how to determine the proper placement. Determining where that hole goes, we're going to take our motor plate and we're actually going to mount it to the top up here. When we install it, when it's all said and done, it's going to be underneath in this bottom position. However, we can mark our hole by putting this in the top. So we are going to use our bolt here into our existing hole, and we're going to push this plate all the way forward. And you can see it is slotted, and we're going to make that hole basically to the back side of that plate, and there is room to adjust if it's off a little bit. We are going to drill this hole with a 5/16 bit. It's a good idea to use a center punch and a smaller, say a 3/16 bit first, so you can be accurate on where your hole goes. Okay, so just a visual here. Our bolt is in, our plate slid forward. Our 5/16 drill bit is going to just drop right in with it pushed all the way forward, and it'll be in the correct location. Prior to mounting this plate, it's important to think about motor orientation. So the motor can mount to this plate in two different fashions, either as you see on the left or on the right. And you can see this plate is cut out to fit this motor. Why we do that is the preferred method to mount this motor out of the way would be this way here. However, when you have the manual factory kit, the motor wants to get too close to that spring bracket. So this orientation is for when you use our electric lift kit. So that would get rid of the manual lift and switch your actual lift of the whole snowblower to an electric lift. And when you do that, these brackets go away and you have lots of clearance. So this tractor does not have that on currently, so we are going to mount the motor to the left. It's still out of the way. It just gets to be a little bit longer run for the wires, but works just fine. So at this point, you would mount your motor to the bracket, and as you can see, there is slots. Everything on here is slotted so that you can get it adjusted just how you need it. So when you do put this on, you can get it snug, maybe even a little loose, and then we'll do all the final tightening once everything's in to help achieve proper alignment. And these are just number 10 millimeter wrenches. We are going to put our auger assembly in. This is going to replace your original from the factory. And we just put this together to give a visual representation of how it's going to look. This is your drive stub that just bolts on here. We have a little washer to act as a bearing surface on the back side, and then there is 3 washers up top. We have found that this bracket can be in a little bit different position, so you can add or remove those as you see fit. This one in particular is going to need 3 washers, and so that's what we're going to leave on there. And this just goes into place kind of like so. These washers are going to go on that side there, and this washer is going to go on that side there. So we'll take this all apart and put it in. Here's that auger assembly going in. Three washers, retainer nut, and washer, stub, and bolt. With the auger in, we're going to put the motor in place. And we're going to just get everything on the loose side of snug so we can still manipulate it by hand to help get the final alignment before we do the final tightening on everything. So as mentioned previously, everything is slotted here. The plate is slotted front and back, as well as up and down. So you can see how much you could really move this thing. And the purpose of that is just because these things get bent over time, manufacturing tolerances, and it allows you to kind of really get the fine-tuned fitment for your machine. Okay, our motor's all aligned, and now we're just gonna tighten down that retainer nut. Kind of go all the way tight and then off, probably quarter, half to 1 turn. With the auger assembly installed, time to move on to wiring this thing up. Here's our control box and wiring kit. This is going to be your power cord here that's going to go to your battery and connect to your control box here. You got plenty of cable, you got zip ties. And for a machine like this where you may have too much power cord, we do give you various connectors if you did want to, say, shorten this and get it to the correct length. Otherwise, on this machine, there is quite a bit of storage under the hood to zip tie that out of the way. And here is going to be the plate that is going to mount on your dash and hold your switch box in a nice location. And the switch box is awesome, pre-labeled, left, right, up, down. Very clean, factory-like install. We are going to start by removing this factory plate here. That's where our switch box mounting plate is going to go. So we're just going to undo these 2 bolts. I believe yours will be different as we lost our originals. Our plate's going to go on to that bracket. The narrow side here is going to go towards the dash of the tractor. Flathead screws go out and it just attaches and will match the profile of your control box using that factory bracket. I'm not sure what all tractors have this, for sure the S240 and possibly others, but if you do have a machine that this works on, it is very nice. And it's time to pop the switch box in place. Switch box is on, wires are just hanging loose. You're gonna have to open up this hood and get at the battery and run this. As you can see, the hood doesn't want to stay open with the chute on. I think what we're gonna do is just pop off these 4 self-tappers and just pop this chute off so we can kind of work with the hood on easily. We're gonna connect up this wire harness, which will power the control box to the battery here. cable is going to be a little long. There is included butt connectors to shorten it. With all the space under the hood here, I think we're just going to kind of leave the extra there and just zip tie it off. And we're going to go in with that wire harness. Kind of tucking it out of the way. Going to hook up our connections, zip tie it down, connect it up to the box. Power's connected. Good idea to shorten that harness, zip tie it out of the way, keep everything safe, and make sure your circuit breaker is secured. And we can now run the wire for the control box. All right, now we're just going to run the wires from the control box up to the snowblower, and we are going to just kind of follow this frame rail. Be mindful of any areas of the engine that get hot. Want to keep it away from the muffler there, so stay on that outside. And we're just going to keep working all the way up to that spring bracket there. Might have to close the hood for the final piece, but we'll finish running this, get zip ties on, and we'll be ready to test. So we're just going to terminate right out front there. Wires run, zip tied in place. We're going to make the connection to the motor, and this thing's ready to test. So this thing's ready to test. Our wires just sneaking in the hood nicely there. We're going to go to the right first. There we go. Battery on this tractor is a little weak. And back to the left. And the motor will keep powering, so it is a good idea to pay attention to where it's at in its rotation. If you do stay on the power, it just kind of keeps spinning but not going anywhere. The plastic does seem to bounce back, and it's no different than if you were to over crank with your hand crank. When it comes to mounting the actuator, the first thing we're going to want to do is remove the original cable. It's just 3 bolts, comes right off. And when you go to mount the actuator, you can mount it on this side. However, with those plastic standoffs, it kind of gets a little bit limiting and potential for rubbing. So we're actually just going to go on the other side where it's nice and smooth. So we find it helpful when mounting the actuator to take some blue painter's tape so you can make some marks with a black permanent marker. And the first thing to be sure is that you don't have any obstructions when the chute is up or down. If we come around to the inside here, we do need to be mindful of this edge. And so we're just going to kind of make a line for ourselves so we know where we can and can't end up. So we know that we need to be on this side of the line. We are ready to start laying out our holes. We know from putting actuators on these blowers before kind of roughly where our bottom hole should be. So we're going to kind of make a guesstimate with the tape measure and then measure out 12 inches. And then we're just going to kind of make a line holding it at 12, but kind of following the arc of the tape measure. And now when we drop the chute down and we grab 8 inches, we kind of grab the point of intersection and make a mark. And this should be where we're going to drill our holes. So 8 inches, and now we'll check again at 12. And we're right on the money. And just to be safe, before we drill, we're going to kind of pop our deflector down and make sure we're not going to hit. And looks like we're good. We're ready to make our hole. We're just going to go with our step bit through the first one and just double check and make sure we're good on our clearance. gonna come down. Everything still looks good. Okay, we're gonna go the rest of the way through. And the same for the bottom hole. We've got our actuator mounting studs, two 13mm wrenches. We're going to put our studs on, and remember to put a washer on either side of the chute. Studs are on and snugged up. Remember, because we are putting this on a poly chute, we don't want to go too tight with the studs, just nice and snug. And we're ready to slide that actuator on, but first we got to put on some washers. Top and bottom, actuator goes on, followed by 2 more washers. And these are stainless steel standoffs, so we use a brass nut, so there's no chance of galling. And now we can just tighten these puppies up. We'll go all the way tight and then back probably about a 1/2 to 3/4 turn off. We want this actuator to pivot freely. And we're ready to test. All the way down. And let's go to the left. That's going to conclude our install for today. We're putting the power chute rotation kit and the power actuator deflector on this S240 on this 44-inch John Deere blower. And it's all controlled now right by this switch box on the dash. Nice and clean. Makes your life easier. Check us out at pushinds.com. Again, that's pushinds.com.